Well, good afternoon. It's good to have you join us today. Give me that. That's my soda can. That was not my hand, by the way. That was Nicole's hand. It's good to have you with us. My name's Ron Deal. We talk about life, love, and relationships on this scope every week about 12:30 Central Time. And we're glad to have you here. Life-changing Amy just joined us. Miss Pastor Anna from Delaware. Delaware, nice. Good to have you with us. I like that. Say your name and where you're from. Type that in there. That kind of helps me get a sense of who's here. Jamie Borden's with us. Good. Anybody else? Oh, they'll come in. Indiana's here. Good. Nice to have you. Today we're going to be talking about the 5 biggest mistakes. Clearsight, Jeremy from Corona, Amy from Iowa. I'm from Iowa. Amy, thank you for that. Born and raised, Des Moines, Iowa, right here. Midwestern boy. I don't know where you're at, but that was a good place. 5 biggest mistakes step families make. Other towns, how are you? Well, I'm doing pretty good, thank you. My name is Billy. Nice to have you with us, Billy. Good to have you here. So we talk about relationships and family, and today we're going to be talking about blended families specifically, and just some mistakes that I see step families making. Central Iowa. See, I knew I liked you. Because nobody in Central Iowa ever has any family problems. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. They're laughing at me. Do you hear that? I get no respect. JBU, Little Rock Center grad student. Nice to have you. Good. Okay, so I was doing this radio interview one time, and the interview person really cold-cocked me. You don't like that when you're on national radio live. When they ask you a question, you go, so here was the question. What are the 5 biggest mistakes that step families make? I had to think pretty fast. And actually, since then, it's given me a lot more time to really process that question because it's a good one. And I want to give them to you today. 5 biggest mistakes step families make. If you're new to Periscope, we'd love to have you share this with other people. Here's how you do that. You swipe from the left on an iOS. You swipe from the bottom on an Android. 24-year-old, 22-year-old, and 4-year-old children. Hey, one of the ways you know you're a blended family is when there's a age span of 2 decades or greater between the kids. That's one of the dead giveaways. There you go. So you swipe from the left, swipe from the bottom on an Android, and you'll see a menu, right? Then you can hit follow. We'd love to have you follow me over time. You can hit share, and then you can decide where. Facebook, Twitter, whatever the other social media that you'd like to use. And you can also kind of see who else is joining us and where they're from. And that's kind of interesting as well. So it's good to have you here. Would love to have you share this. Number 1, biggest mistake step families make is they don't have a blueprint. And here's what I mean by that. Nobody built a house. Nobody starts building a building without a blueprint. You got to have some plans. You got to get the architect in the room, and you got to decide how the building is going to be built. You can't just say, you know what, let's build a wall this long. I don't know. How long does that feel good to you? Yeah, this long feels good to me. Well, what about the next wall? And what implications is that going to have for the ceiling? You got to have a blueprint. Now, here's the catch. A lot of people who are starting blended families, 8 kiddos, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 21, 15, and 10, how are you still alive? Kudos to you. Yeah. Hey, man, that's awesome. Keep going. Keep swimming, as we like to say. Just keep swimming. Yeah, I bet it is crazy. Yeah, thank you. So blueprints. Step families have a different set of blueprints, and if they're not careful, they walk in with the blueprints from the biological family home. Here's what I mean by that. Your expectations, your assumptions, this is how life goes, this is how relationships go, here's what parenting looks like. That all makes sense, and whether you think about it or not, that's often built on a biological family blueprint. How the home is going to function, what roles are, how things should move forward. You have a lot of assumptions that are based on a biological family. And some of those things will work, absolutely. Some of those will carry over nicely into a step family, but there's a few of them that are really different. And so you're working off the wrong sets of blueprints. For example, step parents' role is very different than a biological parent's role. It's not the same. It will not be the same. It doesn't develop, you don't develop authority at the same pace or the same level. You don't have the ability to step in and intervene in the life of a child. You really have to earn your respect. You have to gain that over time. I spend an awful lot of time in many of my books, The Smart Step Family, The Smart Step Mom, and The Smart Step Dad in particular, talking about this role difference for step parents. You really got to get those blueprints so that you're working off the right blueprints for your home. Here's another thing that's really different. What makes us happy will make the kids happy. Well, that's a really nice romantic notion, okay? It may work well in the movies, but in real life, what makes the adults happy sometimes upsets the kids, sometimes complicates their life, sometimes changes their outlook on things. And so it doesn't always equal your happiness equals their happiness. Sometimes that's a process where their happiness lags behind but then joins you. But if you get really frustrated and upset with them, then that just creates difficulty over time. It creates a lot of stress. I'm going to come back to that in just a minute, that stress thing. Hold on to that. So that's one of the biggest things, is you got to have the right set of blueprints. In other words, I like to say it this way. Make sure you have step family answers to step family questions. Okay, not first family, biological family answers to step family questions. It's the right answer for the wrong family. For a different kind of family, you got to have step family answers to your family questions, which means you got to read books, watch videos, go to workshops and classes that are all about step family living. That's how you get the right set of blueprints. If that's never really occurred to you before, maybe you're sitting here listening to this and thinking, well, that makes a lot of sense. Where do we start? Well, FamilyLife.com, that's what we do here at Family Life Blended. We have tons of articles at FamilyLife.com. My personal website is SmartStepFamilies.com. Both of those sites have lots of free stuff, all right? We're all about giving away free stuff. Hey, thanks for sharing on Facebook, somebody. Sorry I missed your name, but thanks for doing that. Free stuff is good, okay? Now you can go buy a book, you can buy a video. We've got that kind of stuff too. Start with the free stuff, all right? There's a lot there to give you the right set of blueprints. Okay, number 2, biggest mistake. Your sister-in-law read the stepmom book and it helped her a lot. Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. Thanks for sharing. Biggest mistake number 2, no parenting plan. This one lays right in with the blueprints, right? So it's not just what's the step-parent's role, but what's the biological parent's role. From Turkey, nice to have somebody here from the other side of the planet. That's always a wonderful thing. Good to have you. Biological parents and step-parents got to work together and try to be a team. And yet you're going to play to one another's strengths, and you're going to have different roles, especially in the early years as the step-parents developing a relationship with the kids. Again, this is all wrapped into what you might call that broad thing called a parenting plan. You got to have one. You got to have thought through this. Now, in a book that I wrote called Dating and the Single Parent, I laid out some statistics that really fascinated me when we discovered them. Part of it came from some research I did with a colleague of mine that we wrote another book called The Smart Step Family Marriage, and it talks about this. But part of it's just research from other people. Somewhere between half and 75% of couples who are getting married and forming a blended family have never had a conversation about how they're going to parent together. People, this is a big deal. This is a big mistake. All right, you got to have a plan, and that means you got to be talking to each other. You need to have a mentor couple that's a step family couple. You can ask them questions, learn from them. Maybe they're a little older, maybe they've just been married a little bit longer. Get together. I'm such an advocate for community. Other step family couples, get together once in a while, sit down and talk about this kind of stuff. Learn from each other's mistakes. And in the process, what you're doing is you're developing unity as a leadership team. You got to have a plan. Again, books like The Smart Step Family, The Smart Step Mom, Smart Step Dad will help you with that. Just a word about the stepmom and stepdad books. They each have chapters in them for the biological parent. It's not just all for the stepmom. There's 2 chapters for the dad. So he can know his role as he's trying to help her know her role. And as together as a team, you're working in ways that make you stronger as a group. Some good things to think about there. Number 3, biggest mistakes step families make is expecting too much too soon. Let me come back to that. We had a good question somebody asked. Shannon's monitoring those questions, so keep them coming. Feel free to just type those in there. How can you find a mentor couple or a group? I'm so glad you asked. One of the ways you find a group is we here at Family Life Blended have a map, a searchable map, where, man, you just click on the map, and right now it's basically in the United States, but we'd love to have people submit for a step family group or ministry or a church that's doing something for step family couples. Let us know about that. You can put things on the map and people can find you, right? So go to FamilyLifeBlended.com, there's a find a group link. Click that. You'll see the map. You can zero down into Texas or Washington or North Carolina, wherever you're from. And if there's a church in your area that has a ministry or is hosting a conference, different things around the country. Nothing in Central Iowa. That's because you need to create a ministry and put it on there. That's kind of what that's all about, right? I'm sorry there's nothing there. Somebody has to take the initiative. And oftentimes it is a couple like you that do that. So search the map. How do you find a mentor couple? Mentor couple is asking around. You know, it's just kind of hanging out with another. You go to church, somebody in your neighborhood, and you're going, wow, you know, they're 10 years down the road and they seem to be doing okay. Let's just take them to dinner and just ask them, hey, would you mind getting together with us once in a while? It doesn't have to be this formal thing where they've gone through all sorts of formal training as a marriage mentor. That's really cool. If your church has that and you can access that, that's really awesome. But don't worry about it being so formal. Just get together with somebody who's a little bit further down the road from you, and then it will naturally lead to conversations where you ask questions, and that'll be a really helpful thing for you. Okay, so back to biggest mistake number 3, and that's expecting too much too soon. Now, I always feel a little bit like a killjoy when I talk about this, but at the same time, I just want you to have an expectation that's in the right place that will help you, excuse me while I take that notice off my phone, that will help you not be disappointed all the time. Expecting too much too soon is, you know, we're married, we love each other, things are going well, kids are going to be doing great. Wow, the kids are not doing great. What's wrong with them? You know, if your 14-year-old daughter would just kind of stop with the attitude, everything would be okay. This is the form it takes. If this would just be that, then everything would be okay and we'd all be happy, right? And let me just acknowledge, I know that's what you want, is happiness. You want to be happy, you want your kids to be happy, you want everybody to feel adjusted and feel like family and for the family to move forward. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just when it's got to happen on your timetable. That's the thing that gets difficult, okay? That's where your expectation creates a lot of pressure for other people. Because then when your expectations aren't met, you start blaming somebody and you start getting confused. One of the things I see a lot with people who get confused is they start rewriting the past. You know, maybe we shouldn't have gotten married. Maybe we shouldn't have dealt with that the way we did. Okay, I got to deal with this question. My wife doesn't love my daughter. How do we deal with that? Okay, excellent illustration. All right. I got to make some assumptions. I can't know everything about that. So forgive me if I make some wrong assumptions here. So she doesn't love her yet. They haven't kind of figured out how to get along, how to do life. Okay, let's just go for what we can get to, right? If you approach your wife with, come on, you need to love her, that's creating a high expectation. It creates a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. Okay, that actually leads me perfectly, thank you very much, right into the next biggest mistake, which is blendering. That's my word for we're trying to force people into a relationship with one another, right? And I think blendering is a big blunder. Say that 10 times fast. Blendering is a big blunder. I can't do that. But you understand what I'm talking about? It's the expectation that creates stress, and now you're disappointed with me constantly because obviously I don't love your daughter, and so now you're upset with me, and now there's stress between us, and there's stress between me and your daughter, and stress everywhere, and we all just get divided. Okay, so approach her not with that, but with, okay, so where do you guys connect? What do you share? What do you desire at this point? And find the smallest common denominator, whatever that is, and try to just let them have enough space to grow with that. And I realize you just chimed in, your resentment's great. Yeah, resentment builds. And I appreciate you admitting that, because it's true. You do feel that resentment. Okay, but you got to back that down. You got to try to say, you know what, they're figuring this out. I don't know what that story is. I don't know why your wife is struggling to connect with your daughter. I don't know what history and water under the bridge. I don't know any of that. I just know it's challenging. So give them some space to find a little bit of success. Lower the bar. Now, that's not giving up. That's not saying it's just saying, how do we find some success to move in a right direction, in a better direction? Give us some hope and optimism. That's your next step. Blendering, pressure. It's about, let's make this happen quick and fast. And again, a lot of these mistakes happen in the early years of a blended family. Families that get through the early years without doing these things find that the latter years come along a little bit more smoothly than other families. They do. Blenders are good for coffee beans and they're good for making smoothies, but they're not good for forming families. People just get upset because you expect me, you need me to like this person, to love whatever, you want me to accept you completely without it. Wait a minute, I've already got a dad, I don't need another dad. It just forces all of that stuff to the surface. Okay, so if you have read anything I've ever written, you know that my philosophy is not to use a blender, but to use a crock pot. Crock pots work slow. Crock pots kind of have a lot of respect for ingredients, and blenders don't. Think about it. Blenders force them and cram them into other ingredients.